Hello, UTSA. Thank you for having me. Even more, thank you for everything y'all do giving back to the community of San Antonio. It's very much appreciated. Before we get started, I just want to let you all know there's no Dr. Pepper shortage in this house. I used to be known for Bud Light and cocaine. Now I'm more known for drinking Dr. Pepper and wearing a lot of Nikes. Before I get started, let me just give you a little bit of background of where I come from and how I ended up here in San Antonio. I was born and raised in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is 70 miles northwest of San Antonio. Uh, Back then, Fredericksburg was very much a drinking community, and it still is. Now it's more known for wine country instead of peaches. But drinking was very much acceptable for me. I drank through high school, graduated. 7 months after I graduated, my best friend died in a car accident. I did not take that good at all. So by the time I was 19, I considered myself full-blown alcoholic. Um, 23 years old, I got hit by a car. I was drunk. Blood alcohol level was 2.7. Shouldn't have lived through it, but I was drunk enough to live through it. Instead of quitting drinking or thinking I had a problem, I learned how to carry a case of beer on crutches. Drinking continued. 1998, my dad passed away at 55. Hit me really hard. 1999, January 27th, the anniversary of my best friend dying, I did my first line of cocaine. Cocaine took me to a whole different place. I continued with that lifestyle, had plenty of suicide attempts. 2008, I got one DWI leaving the bar. A week later, I got another DUI, and this time I got caught with the possession of cocaine with me. So I started probation for the DUI. Then the grand jury found me guilty of the cocaine. So the day that I signed my probation for the cocaine, I was caught inside the bar by my probation officer. That revoked my probation the very first day. I was put in an outpatient rehab, failed the UA in outpatient rehab, went to my probation officer, told him to revoke me, that I wasn't going to make it on probation, and let's just get this over with. He talked me into getting into a rehab, but he was trying to find a dual diagnosis rehab to deal with my mental health, my depression, and the alcohol all at the same time. That was in December of 2009, so we're all the way in May of 2010, and my probation's still not revoked. I'm living paranoid. I'm looking over my shoulder, just waiting to be arrested so that I can go to jail and do my rehab, all of that stuff. So it was Thursday evening, May 27th. I'm sitting outside my travel trailer. Well, it's a real ratty travel trailer, drinking a beer, thinking that was all that I had to show for all my life. I knew I was an addict. I didn't want my niece and nephew to grow up knowing me as an addict. So I threw a rope up in a tree, took 2,700 milligrams of Zoloft, called 911, told them to bring a hearse because I'd be dead by the time they got there. I finished my beer, took all the Zoloft, wrapped the rope around the tree. Last thing I remember is just kind of leaning off the trailer hitch and grabbing the rope. I woke up in University Hospital, didn't know where I was at. Kind of find out I was airlifted. They didn't think I was going to make it. They told my brother that I wouldn't live through the night. The police did when they went to tell him. I woke up in ICU. Obviously, I'm still alive. May 28, 2010 is my sobriety date. I just told God, it's like, just lead me someplace where I could be of help to somebody, and I'll follow you. It's enough. I don't need to put my brother through this anymore. And so I got out of the hospital. I went to jail. A week after I got out of the hospital, they locked me up in jail. Spent 3 months, got into a rehab. It was a really good rehab. I was really getting into it. I was learning. I was going to counseling. I was doing everything. Problem is they put me on a medication that did not work for me. It was doing the reverse. It was my mind was speeding up instead of slowing down. I started getting real paranoid, thinking that everybody was out to get me. Nobody was trying to help me. Had another suicide attempt. Ended up getting kicked out of the rehab, and probation was revoked. Came back to Fredericksburg, finished out my jail time, got found guilty, convicted felon now. But I did my time, came out of jail, but now I don't have a place to stay. My travel trailer was parked back behind where I was working. I no longer had a job. I stayed with my brother for a little bit. That wasn't really working out. I put him through a lot. So I ended up at in San Antonio at Haven for Hope. When I walked into Haven for Hope, um, it was culture shock for me. In the small town where I was from, we didn't see homeless people. Only time I'd see homeless people would be when I'd go to the city, and I really didn't go to the city that much. But the stigma kind of held. When I went, it'd normally be seeing people sitting on the side of the road drinking with their signs up and stuff like that. So I walk in, I don't have the residency as Bear County residency, so I get put in the courtyard, which is outdoor. It's an open air shelter. It's got all your basic needs. It's got your showers, your meals. You have a mat to sleep on, hygiene products, stuff like that. Everything that you would need to survive. So I did that until I got in to the member side. Once I got onto the member side, that's when everything started working out good for me. I got assigned a case manager who she gets frustrated because I always give her the credit I believe she deserves, but she believed in me until I started believing in myself. 20 years of alcoholism and 11 of those 20 years was drug addiction. I beat myself up. I just did not believe in myself. I didn't think I deserved anything. Just pretty much thought I was worthless. So she connected me to a counselor. The counselor helped me start working through all that depression I was going through, all through my addiction with the deaths and everything like that. So that was very much needed. She got me connected to the dental. UTSA dental interns did dental work on me, which is very much appreciated. I wasn't ashamed to smile for the first time in a good 15 years. And I got started with an education program. I got started in San Antonio College, got a job as a work study, was working doing that. And then they decided to hire a peer support, which is a person that works off of lived experience. They decided to hire a male and a female. I applied for the job at Haven as the male peer support, and I got hired. That was in 2013. I was still living there. They don't allow that anymore, but I was still living there at the time, and I got moved off. Been in my apartment now for 7 years, and been working there for 7 years. So everything that went, all the resources I was able to get at Haven just kind of helped me build me up, and now I'm working there, and that works on my recovery every day because I use my lived experience to help other people who are going through the same things. If they just gotten out of jail, I understand what it's like to be in jail. If they're struggling with depression, I understand what that feels like. I understand what it's like to be an addict, an alcoholic. So I can just see them and meet them where they're at and speak with them basically with no judgment, and not trying to. The program I'm working in now, it's truly meets them where they're at. It's for chronic homeless, which they don't have to be breathalyzed or UA to be part of this program. But it's also like zero judgment. It's like if you come in drunk and you come to me and you're wanting help, we're going to try to find you help. So I'll start answering some of these questions that was sent to me. What were some variables in your experience that you did not think would happen to you? I didn't realize when I was homeless how hard it would be to get a job when you do not have a regular address. The only address that you have is a sheltered address. And that's kind of one of these other questions too, is with the stigma. There's one question on here. Do you feel that the stigma surrounding homelessness contributes to the lack of resources available? So just with having a homeless address, or even when you try to get somebody housed, some apartments won't work with you if you're coming from a shelter. They'll base that off of one or two people that they've had in the past. So employment's very tricky if you do not have an address that you can use outside of Haven for Hope. Even though Haven for Hope does very good, the employment services do very good working with the community and getting them to hire. And then I always tell the people I work with men, I always tell the men that I work with, is like, you're setting that reputation that you're a good worker, that's helping other people. So go out there and do the best that you can for these people. That'll give them more of an opportunity to want to hire somebody else. It is from Haven. Um, was homelessness? Let's see. What was the biggest lesson you learned after experiencing homelessness? The biggest lesson I learned after experiencing homelessness is the stigma's all wrong. I mean, I fit the stigma because, yes, I mean, I was clean and sober a year by the time I ended up at Haven for Hope. But everything that I did in my past and my addiction, it caught up with me, and that was the cause of what caused me to be homeless. But there's people who were working very, very good jobs, maybe living outside their means, and something happened to that job, and there they are. They're at Haven, and so it's like there's not, when they say what's the face of homelessness, there's not a face of homelessness. It could be anybody. It could happen to anybody. So that was one of the things that I learned from after I became homeless, that it wasn't just your people who were struggling with severe mental health, and it wasn't your people who were just struggling with alcoholism and addiction. Yes, those people are there, but there's so many more that maybe a divorce or a death in the family. I speak with people all the time that their wife died and they just lost everything. They had everything going good, but their wife died, and then they had kind of like a nervous breakdown, ended up homeless. Do you feel like the city or even state could do more to aid those experiencing homelessness? Yes. And how so? Affordable housing. That's a huge cause of homelessness. One thing I really hate to see is elderly people who, with their Social Security retirement, their apartment raises the rent up high enough to where they cannot afford the rent anymore, and they have too much pride, and they end up in an encampment somewhere homeless until a street outreach person finds them and brings them to a shelter where we can help them. So affordable housing, that's very much needed. And working with people with income, it's like cut some people a break. They might be in a homeless shelter, but that does not mean that they do not want to still go work and that they're not still good workers. They're very good workers. They're very professional. What information, knowledge do you have for incoming freshmen regarding the issues of homelessness that they may not be aware of? Or anything that you feel is important for them to know? It's trauma is a very big leading cause of homelessness. So with trauma, with alcoholism, addiction, untreated mental health, those are all very big causes. But also, like I said earlier, just people maybe living outside their means and stuff happening is a very big cause as well. Other things that I feel that should be known is there is a lot of death attached to this job, a lot more than what I thought, and it's because the health resources aren't there. People who are homeless normally don't have insurance, and trying to get somebody a procedure done that can be life-saving in the long run is very challenging to do. Our partner agency, Central Med, does a great job with Lincoln, with the UHS, and getting people connected to what they call the HAP program, which is Homeless Assistance Program. But that's still it's a process, and not everybody is accepted into it. So there's a lot of medical needs that are needed to be met that are not necessarily met. Do you feel that the stigma surrounding homelessness contributes to the lack of resources available? Yes, I do. Like I said earlier, when you have a homeless address, it's very hard in some cases to find employment, find a place that's going to rent to you, medical needs that you need. The stigma, it's very, very disabling for people because it's something that doesn't just go away from you either. I was, I mean, I've been housed 7 years, and I still won't go into stores with my backpack on because as soon as I walk into the store, I feel like people are looking at me like I'm homeless, and then they're going to start looking at me like I'm going to steal something or I'm going to cause some kind of trouble. So I mean, it's just something that just doesn't go away from from you. It's something that's hard to get past. And then it's not only the homeless stigma. A lot of people have the stigma of the alcoholism addiction, the mental health stigma, and the homeless stigma. I have all three, and those are hard to get over sometimes because, just for instance, an apartment application. I'm a convicted felon. I have a drug conviction felony. So when I go put an application in for an apartment, they look at that. They don't look at me that I've been clean and sober for 10 years. They don't look at me that I've had 7 years worth of work giving back to the community, helping others not make the same mistakes I do. It's a piece of paper that gets turned into somebody else. It's not the manager that makes that call. It gets sent up through a chain of other people that do not even know you, never talk to you, never visually see you and see that you are trying your hardest to do good, and it comes back denied. That's an issue that people face, and that's an issue that can also lead to people becoming homeless. I went over my time a little bit. I hope that's what you were looking for. And again, thank you for letting me be part of y'all's project.